Hello, my name is Andy and I am the Village Idiot. I'm armed with a car and a GoPro and an unhealthy amount of time on my hands. I'm using that time to attempt to visit every civil parish in England. You're watching the Newark and Sherwood series, a district of 84 civil parishes right in the centre of Nottinghamshire. Come with me as we delve into one of them. Welcome back to Newark and Sherwood, everybody. Although at the beginning of this episode we're not actually in Newark and Sherwood, we're just over the boundary into Gedling, and that's because the boundary between the two districts sort of overlaps a sort of urban area between two villages, and it's hard to tell where the dividing line is. On the Gedling side it's the parish of Burton Joyce, and that's everything you can see over there. On the Newark and Sherwood side, it's the very small parish of Bulcote. This Newark and Sherwood video is sponsored by Past Days, a family history blog by June Terrington. You'll find a link in the description. Here's my disclaimer for people who may be watching me for the first time. I say things as I would in my native accent and dialect. As a result, I may not pronounce things in the same way as the locals do. Remember, I'm a visitor. It's impossible to know everything. Leave me a comment, spin me a like and bash that subscribe button. Let's get to today's parish video. Welcome to Bulcote, a small village right on Newark and Sherwood's boundary with the Gedling parish of Burton Joyce, the two settlements being conjoined. It wasn't always like that. Burton Joyce has expanded outwards to meet Bulcote over the years, meaning the line between the two is somewhat blurred these days. Bulcote relies on Burton Joyce though for many of its amenities. The village itself is a conservation area and is quite small compared to its neighbour. It's considered to be on the fringe of the Greater Nottingham area, lying some 7 miles away from the city centre. Bulcote means cattle shed, which reflects the development of the village mainly as a farming community. It was recorded in the Domesday Book when it was already an established village overlorded by the Norman knight Walter Danecourt. The de Busley family rented land here between 1080 and 1099. Believe it or not, back then Bulcote had a larger population than Burton Joyce, outstripping its near neighbour 132 to 50. The population level of the village remained more or less constant for over 900 years until it was increased by housing developments in the 1960s. Although Bulcote now relies on Burton Joyce and its amenities, it still remains proud of its independence, and so it should. It's the small piece of Newark and Sherwood on the very edge of Nottingham. It's Bulcote. Let's go and see it. We begin on the A612, the main road through Bulcote and Burton Joyce. Here I'm pointing to the street where I parked, which is clearly in the latter. As mentioned in the intro, Bulcote is a conservation village, meaning developments here are limited. That said, there are a few, like Wisteria Court, a block of flats along the A612. Just off the main road there's a small green. I don't consider this to be the centre of the village, but it's where the village's Christmas tree goes every year, apparently. There's a parish notice board here as well, so you can mark off this tiny village from your Newark and Sherwood lists. We're down to 22 folks. We're now following Old Main Road, exactly what it says on the tin. This used to be the main thoroughfare here in Bulcote before the modern A612 replaced it. We're heading for what I consider to be the village centre, although it's hard to define because Bulcote has no real amenities. It used to have a shop though. Well, it's not hard to see why Bulcote is a conservation village. It's a very quiet, peaceful little place. Can hardly hear the traffic on the A612. It's amazing. I'm only a few yards from it, but yeah, I can barely hear it. Now here I've just spotted this little garden. I don't think this is a public garden. I think it's a private one, but even so, isn't that very well maintained? So the people around here obviously keep this place looking spick and span as best they can, and why not if it's a conservation village? I've just noticed as well on the other side of the road there seems to be a little playing field. Didn't know this existed. I can see a football goal over there. I don't know whether it is or not, or whether it's just another garden. Not totally sure. I'll just see if I can get a better view from up here. But generally speaking, the rest of the walk will take us firstly to the left, and then left again at the church, and back onto the A612 and back into Burton Joyce. So it's a small place, not really much going on here, is there? There are some pretty impressive properties though. Look at this one here, for example, this white house. Isn't that amazing? So yeah, Bulcote, lovely little place, isn't it? Let's keep walking. Just thought I'd clear that up about the playing field. It's not a playing field, it is actually a private garden. The woman who lives there actually spotted me filming that last shot. No issue, just wanting to know what I was doing basically, and I said, look, I thought it was a playing field. No problem. So yeah, they're obviously nice people as well around here. Now in the village centre, we have a George V postbox on the wall of what used to be the shop, a part 17th century building now known as Hollynook. Across the road is a farmhouse, and that's not surprising. Bulcote was a farming village and in part remains so today. This fine old property dates from the 18th century. If you turn the corner here, you're still on Old Main Road according to Google. For some reason it forks. Running between the road and the farmhouse is a small, dry stream. We've come this way to get a look at Bulcote's level crossing. The line here is the same one that we've seen countless times before, Nottingham to Lincoln. What makes this one special is its crossing house, which you can see on the left here. It was built in 1846 in London brick, unusual for Nottinghamshire. And just over the railway there's a row of cottages. These were built for farm workers in the early 1900s. Keep these in mind, they'll be important later. Now when we've done with this main walk, I will be taking the car across that level crossing because there's something down there of great interest. It's something I read about while I was researching this particular parish. Now whether or not it still stands, I don't know, because what I was reading, the article I was reading about it was a few years old, so it may have been demolished by now, but we'll soon find out. Let's complete the walk anyway. We've got a red phone box, we've got a signboard there with something on it and a British flag, and that little stone there says Bulcote Conservation Village, and this road will take us around to the church next. Here's a few more things in the village centre before we make our way back towards the A612. First of all, there's a heritage trail board here where a lot of this episode's information has come from. Right next to that is the stone I just mentioned. I promise you, this does say it's a conservation village. The sunlight was a bit strong. Over the way we've got Bulcote's old red phone box, and again it's a book exchange. No CCTV in this one though folks. Long-time viewers will get that reference. If you know, you know. Moving on, here's Bulcote Manor, an excellent example of an 18th century double pile farmhouse built on the site of the medieval manor. Next, it's Ivy House. This was once a coaching inn called the Unicorn. When it closed, its licence transferred to what is now the Unicorn Hotel in Gunthorpe. And a few more steps brings us to a bus stop on the A612. The services you can catch here are the 26, 26A, N26, N49 and N50. Okay, let's cross the A612 and head to the church of Holy Trinity, which stands high upon a hill on the other side of the road. So after crossing the A612, we're at the Grade 2 listed Holy Trinity Church, which stands on a hill above the village. There's some good views from here. It was built as a chapel of ease in 1862, and it's in a joint parish with two other churches, St Helen's Church at Burton Joyce and St Luke's Church at Stoke Bardolph. It replaced an original church that collapsed following a violent thunderstorm. It's said to have been founded by the Sancta Maria family, who held the lordships of both Bulcote and Burton Joyce from early in the 13th century. They resided in Bulcote, living in a house named St Mary's Hall, the exact site of which is not known. There's a more extensive history of the church in the porch, but it's way too long to fit into one video. Let's make our way back down to the road. In doing so, we find this bench, which belongs to the village. It was placed here to commemorate the coronation of King George VI in 1937. Okay, so the only thing left to do now really is walk back down the A612, take a right turn, and then turn left onto Shaftesbury Avenue where I parked the car. And that's the village of Bulcote. Just before I do that though, next to the church is this. Now, this looks like an old garden centre. Whether or not it is, I don't know, but that sign mentions bedding plants. I'm not totally sure what this is, but it doesn't look very open, does it? So, yeah, we'll carry on. I don't think there's anything of interest there. So yeah, down the A612, turn right and then left, and we are done with the walk. So there wasn't really anything else of note on the last part of the walk. The heritage board that we saw earlier marks the lodge somewhere here, but I can't seem to find it. I think it may have stood there where Wisteria Place is, who knows? But it's certainly none of these houses along here, unless I missed it, because that is possible, let's be honest. Anyway, Shaftesbury Avenue is just here. We're about to cross back into Burton Joyce and into Gedling, and that's the main walk completed. Now, there's one more thing I want to do while I'm here in Bulcote. You remember earlier I mentioned going across that level crossing to see what's down there and if it still stands. Now, the article I read about Bulcote Manor Farm, as I was researching this, was telling me it was due to be demolished to make way for some housing. Now, I have absolutely no idea if it still stands or not, because I haven't been down there yet. So let's hop in the car and see if it's still there. My bad, we're actually heading for Bulcote Model Farm here, not Bulcote Manor Farm. I knew it began with an M. The word model, though, is entirely appropriate. Bulcote Model Farm was built in 1904 and 1905. It consists of 24 Grade 2 listed barns based around a quadrangle. It was created after Nottingham Corporation made a compulsory purchase of land alongside the River Trent in 1901. It was then extensively developed and within a short time accommodated many horses, a good-sized herd of milking cows, rearing and carving cattle, and pigs. At its peak in 1910, it employed almost 100 workers. It was put up for sale in 2022, and it's believed this will soon be turned into a brand new housing development comprising 65 homes, some of which will be barn conversions. Whether or not that means the farm will be partially demolished remains to be seen, but it appears from what I read at least that the plans are still in their infancy. Its history as a farm, though, will live on thanks to that row of cottages seen here again as we leave. And that's it for Bulcoat. I've been Andy, also known as the Village Idiot, and I'm out.